Hey guys, my name is Tasheena. Welcome back to my channel. I'm a trained teacher and also an ESL teacher. I was in China and I was teaching there for over 2 years. Right, so I reference that because I'm specifically coming on here with a content for our persons who are interested in teaching English in China. Now, specifically, we're going to be discussing salaries. So if videos like these interest you, just keep on watching. All right, so big up to all my supporters. There was a specific one that asked in the comments for me to speak to salaries in a video. So I said, it makes sense because others may have the same question. All right, so there are other videos that I would possibly touch on salary, but not in its complete sense. So I'm creating this video to help you make an informed decision. I'm going to be sharing based on my experience what I know to be the case, So let me put that as a disclaimer. Upon when I was leaving China, the market was one where the employers had a lot of control as it regarded the salary dictation. And that was because the borders started opening up, which means freedom of persons moving back and forth, which means they could easily get anybody outside that would be wanting so badly to leave their country for whatever salary that the employers were dictating that they were willing to pay. So at a point when I was leaving Jamaica to go there, it was a little bit more flexible where there were more negotiation room for employees. I'm not saying you can't negotiate, but what I'm saying, it's easier for a person who have already been in China to negotiate a higher salary compared to a person who is just going to leave their home country to go to China. No, guys, based on my opinion, yes, it's my opinion, employers, I've seen where employers are willing to go as low as 9,000 RMB. No, realize I say RMB, that's Chinese currency. So it therefore means that you have to get in the habit of converting the Chinese currency to your local currency. My local currency would be JMD, which is Jamaican dollars, right? So I have my notebook, so just in case I miss any point, I can reference it. So don't mind me looking down. All right, so 9,000 RMB is somewhat like 198,240 approximately in Jamaica, right? Now, in my opinion, salaries, there are several factors that do play in the dictation or the determination of a salary, whether it's good for you. And I'll ideally say you have to evaluate what your situation is, because what might be my situation won't be yours. What I might want to accept, you won't, because of course we have different circumstances that drives us. All right, that's aside. Ideally, if you are a person who is not teacher trained, but you have your bachelor's degree, you don't have a major in English as your degree, and you don't have teaching experiences, I'd say ideally you can start at a salary of 12,000 RMB. Now in Jamaican currency, that's 258,990 approximately, right? You can do the conversion in your local currency. I'll say start there, being the lowest, because you do have your bachelor's and that's one of the requirements. However, you're not teacher trained, which would have been additional perks for you to negotiate more salary. Now, onto a person who is teacher trained, they have their at least 2 years teaching experiences, and they also teach English in their home country. So their major is in English. You have all the perks. And in my opinion, the ball is in your court to negotiate and negotiate well, because they want what you have. So I'd say to you, accept at least 15,000 RMB. Now, another case where I would say accept at least 15,000 RMB is if you are teacher trained, English is not your major, right? And you do have teaching experiences, start at 15,000 RMB, which in Jamaican currency is like 327,750 approximately. So like I said, guys, get in the habit of converting so you know whether it makes sense or not. All right, so that's just one factor that plays into whether a salary in China for ESL teaching makes sense. You have to match your experiences against what they require, and if you have all of their requirements, it means you have more power to negotiate. Don't sell yourself short. And as I mentioned, don't sell yourself short. Bear in mind, you are seeking a job. Don't settle for the first job. Even if you get the offer, still do additional interviews, have basis and different offers to be compared, and take the best one for you. Sometimes race plays out in also a factor as to what you get as salary. We don't like that, yes, but it exists in China. The higher your skin color is, some employers are willing to pay more. And this does not necessarily mean that you have to be teacher trained with the skin color. You don't have to have experiences. You might not even be able to teach well, but your skin color speaks. Now, on the other hand, you do have employers where even if you have skin color, you have to know what you're doing. And as such, that plays out in your salary as well. So just letting you know so you know what to expect. Now, onto the part where, we're evaluating whether our salary makes sense. Let's check some other factors. All right. So first thing first, you want to make sure you know where you'll be living. Is it gonna be school housing, which can be off the school campus or on the school campus? So you want to know that. Also, where you're living in terms of geographic location. Is it gonna be in the city center? And let me say, in the city center, it's a lot more expensive. Is it gonna be on the outskirts or in the country area, which is less expensive? This will aid in you saying, oh, these salaries don't make any sense because I'll be just going to work and paying bills. Okay? Another factor, is your employer going to be covering your rent completely? Are they going to be assisting you with utilities? You want to ensure you evaluate this because it helps you in determining whether or not your salary makes sense for you and your situation. What will the cost of your utilities look like? So typically you pay water, you have to get your own internet, light, of course, and for some place you might pay for the gas, right? Are these gonna be very expensive? Are they gonna take too much out of your salary? You have to know that and evaluate that well. All right, are there any property taxes or property fees that you need to pay? This is very important. When I was leaving, I think that within that last year, they had started charging you some property taxes where you had to pay. So you want to consider all of these and ask these important questions in your session with potential employers too. How far will your apartment be from the school? And this indicates whether or not you can walk, ride, or you are going to have to take train or taxis. I would say go for a school that's close where you can walk, because anything can happen and you have to be weighing your cost. You have to be doing your cost analysis and your expenses. You don't want something that's going to be costing you too much. E-bikes are there. You can go ahead and purchase those too to help you with your transportation needs. All right, how will you be able to take care of all your financial obligations in your home country after you pay all your expenses in China? That's your rent, your utilities, and everything that you need to pay, your food in China. Will you be able to take care of what it is that you need to take care of back home? And of course, this should be probably one of your primary questions. If you can't, it makes no sense, in my opinion. But again, you'll have to evaluate for you whether or not it make complete sense. Let me see if I have any other points. Of course I do. All right. Will you have cash to return to work for any or to be able to take care of any miscellaneous spending? So after taking care of your obligation back home, your obligation in China, will you have any cash left? These are all factors that plays out in whether a salary makes sense for you. So it's a point in time where you have to really carefully consider what it is that you're doing, because you don't want a case where you leave your home country, you were probably teaching there or whatever job you were doing there, and you go to another country and it's the same amount you're working. I personally don't think it makes sense, because it costs to move from one country to the other and all of those costs that comes with it, right? So if that's the case, then it would make sense, right? But guys, these are just my opinion based on my experiences, that of others I know that are currently living in China too. You want to ensure that your salary makes sense, because at the end of the day, you went for financial freedom or whatever other obligations you had you want to take care of. And if you're not able to do that, I suggest you don't leave your country. Guys, just be open to know that you can negotiate. Don't be afraid. Do additional interviews like I mentioned earlier, so you have a basis to compare. One employer might be willing to give you 9,000 and another might be willing to negotiate and give you 12, 15, 16. And again, match these with your experiences for yourself to know what your worth is and whether or not you want to take that opportunity. I have said a mouthful. Hopefully it was clear enough for you, but if not, feel free to comment in the comment section and ask your question. I'll definitely take it into consideration and create a video specifically to answer that, so I can clarify more. But salary, yeah, and of course, very important to note, ensure these salaries that we are discussing is after tax. Yes, after taxation. So 15,000 after tax, I would say 9,000 after tax, because so oftentimes persons get in that zone where they don't pay attention to the fact that it's not after tax, and then when it come pay time, you're getting a little less because tax would have been calculated and taken from the salary. So pay attention to that. Ensure as well the contract states specifically that it's after tax and the specific amount. If in the event that your employers are providing any other amenities and covering any other expenses, it needs to be stated. All right, so that's somewhat not specific to salary, but that's general. But anyways, I hope you enjoy this video. Keep on watching. If you're not yet subscribed, use the opportunity to subscribe and ask your questions, and I'll definitely create a video specifically surrounding your question. Thank you for your time. Until next video, bye bye.